Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. The BC government just announced new protections for tenants and support for landlords that launches later this month. We're going to talk about what they're doing here, whether it actually helps tenants, and whether it actually supports landlords. Real quick, if this is your first time to the channel, my name is Hassan. I'm a real estate agent in the Vancouver area, and I make educational real estate content to help you on your real estate journey. When I'm not making videos like this, I'm helping people just like you buy and sell real estate across the Lower Mainland. So if that sounds interesting to you and you wanted to chat about your real estate situation with me one-on-one, you can book me for a free call in the Calendly link below and subscribe to this channel so you don't miss a future weekly video. All right, guys, I'm going to hop right into this. The BC government just announced a new platform, a new online platform that's going to guard against wrongful evictions for personal use, for landlord use. Now, this was announced that this was coming earlier this year. I did a video on it, but we didn't really have any formal guidelines as to what it would look like. They just announced the other day that this portal, this online portal, that's basically going to be the process that landlords have to take to evict for personal use. That's launching on July 18th, so later this month. I'm going to talk about what sort of effect this is going to have on the real estate market, how this supports landlords, how it affects tenants. And to get to that, I'm going to talk about exactly what this portal is. So this online portal now, this website, it's going to be the only way that you can evict a tenant for personal use. It's going to be the formal platform. It's going to create the eviction notice, if you will, by going in there. Landlords will now have to provide more detail. So I should explain, how it works right now is, you basically would send the tenant notice. It's a standardized form. You would send them notice that you do need to use the property for personal use, and that can be for immediate family members, for yourself if you need to move in. If you were to sell the property and that buyer is planning to move in themselves, that also falls under this umbrella. But what's going to happen now is this portal, it's going to be required to use this portal or else that eviction is invalid. And you're going to have to put in more information in terms of who's actually moving into that suite. Did you sell the property? Is it the new buyer? Who from your family member is actually moving into it? So they're going to have a standardized portal where they can collect more information. You'll get a number based on your file. So everything's all in one place. And what this allows to happen is if this does get disputed, and I'll talk about how disputes have changed with this as well, they have a systemized area where they have all of the information. So the standardized portal is what you will use. Currently, as it stands, if you wanted to move into your property for personal use, your own property, you need to move in there for a minimum of 6 months. Right? So you move in for 6 months. If things change, you need to put it on the market, re-rent it. After that 6-month period, it is okay for you to do that. They are now shifting, the provincial government is now shifting this to 12 months. So you'll have to move in and live in the property or an immediate family member for 12 months versus 6 months. Now, if a tenant is given a notice that for personal use, a personal use eviction, as it stands today, they have 15 days to dispute that notice. This now changes with this new portal as well. This will change to 30 days to dispute that notice. And the last kind of piece of this is, as it stands right now, if you were to evict for personal use, you have to give the tenant 2 calendar months notice. And so what that means is if you're in the middle of 1 month, right now we're in the middle of July or we're early into July, you would have to give notice for all of August, all of September, and the first date you can move in is October 1st. That is now shifting to 4 calendar months notice. So those are the changes. It's being touted as support for landlords and help for tenants. So let's talk about the landlord side of it. When you look at it from a landlord perspective, I don't see any additional support here for landlords. right? What they're saying is that this is a standardized, portal where it's going to show you exactly what the requirements are to evict for personal use, what the penalties are if you are caught basically doing a bad faith eviction, which essentially is 12 months worth of rent that goes to the tenant. So it's going to all be in a standardized place. And that's it. That's the support for landlords in this process. So when we look at the tenant side, I think we can see obviously some positives here, some things that would help them initially getting a longer period of time to be able to find their next property, the 4 calendar months. But let's talk about what this means for the first-time buyers. And this is the big head scratcher for me. This is going to greatly hurt the first-time buyer, because now if they're to purchase a tenanted property that's on a month-to-month tenancy, so not on a term, terms are always honored, but if this is a month-to-month tenancy and a first-time buyer wants to purchase it, suppose we're in January right now, they'll have to give 4 calendar months notice before they are able to move in as first-time buyers or any buyers. So that's all of February, March, April, May. They can move in on June 1st. You write the offer in January, you cannot move in until June 1st. So it completely, takes away for most people the opportunity to purchase a tenanted property and move into it. Because obviously that buyer has their own timelines to have to get into that property. Number two, when we look at the financing end of things and we look at how banks hold interest rates, or mortgage rates, I should say, for each file, they tend to do this for 90 to 120 days max. So basically, in these scenarios, if a buyer is going to purchase a tenanted property, their rate is up in the air. There's no lender out there that's going to be able to manage up to 5 months to be able to hold that rate for the new buyer for up to 5 months. It's not out there. So that rate ultimately will change. There's uncertainty for that first-time home buyer who generally 99% of the time, or I should say 90% of the time, is relying on financing and is very rate sensitive. So you have a scenario now where first-time home buyers moving into that tenanted property or trying to purchase that tenanted property, it removes that option. And the reason why I think this is such a big deal is for a lot of first-time buyers, tenanted properties, realistically, they were the properties that they could more readily and easily go for without ending up in these large competitive scenarios. Again, that first-time buyer is more price sensitive. So when they could go to a tenanted property, they knew for the most part they weren't competing with an investor that's trying to purchase that same property, which ends up running up the price. There's again other people that have more timely scenarios. They need to move quick. So perhaps they're going after vacant properties because they can move in at the end of the month. So these tenanted properties, and truthfully, the tenanted property does not show as well. So the competitive nature surrounding tenanted properties were lower. And I found that first-time buyers, they love that scenario because, again, they're not competing with as many offers on an offer night. It was the perfect property for them. And so now when you take that tenanted property and you make it even more difficult to sell, you basically shrink the amount of people that are going to be able to purchase that property. You now have more people targeting the vacant properties and the owner-occupied properties, right? And so this creates greater demand for these units. Ultimately, this policy hurts first-time home buyers, and I've said it before on my channel, and this just reiterates it, is that this government does not care if you are to buy your first property. They do not care. The only thing that they care about is that everyone has a roof over their head. Whether that's rental, whether that's through social housing, whatever it might be. But they do not care that you're able to purchase a home. And this policy makes it more difficult for the first-time buyer because it's going to shrink the amount of units that are available that could actually work for that first-time buyer. And I know what, the counter argument to this is that that's great. These units, they're going to come down in price. There's going to be more units on the market, more condo units. Investors are just going to want to sell every time, tenants give notice. They're going to want to sell. It's going to put a bunch more units on the market and everything's going to become more affordable for everyone. And unfortunately, the sad reality is we're so far gone from that type of environment that we are not going to get back there to where properties are affordable for the masses. It's just not going to happen. Unfortunately, prices will not decrease that amount. For these first-time buyers and people getting into the market, you got to think there's a lot of people that could actually afford the payments, but the qualification on the mortgage side is difficult for them to get into these properties. So a 5 or a 10% swing on these property prices, it's not going to do a whole lot for the buyer who's trying to qualify, scraping to qualify to get into the market. Now, I talked earlier about how this policy has been touted as supporting landlords and supporting tenants, but I don't see any which way that this supports landlords, right? This systemized process of having a website you can go to understand what you need to do to evict for personal use, to have it all in one place, that already exists. That already exists on the provincial government website. They lay out the criteria. And so for me, it's okay. It's okay to have a policy that supports one group of people. That's okay. It's okay to come out and say that we are putting in renter protections here. This is for the renters. But the governments are so scared of alienating a segment of the population that are voters that they have to sprinkle in that this is some sort of support for the landlord. And that's the part that gets me. If you're gonna come out, create a policy that supports one group of people, support that one group of people. Put it out there that you are supporting one group of people through this policy. But it's just the guts are not there to alienate the landlords in this process. It has to be spun as we're supporting everyone here. And to me, I look at it and say, well, you're kind of looking at landlords as if landlords are dumb. Like they can't see through what is happening here, right? So, we have policies in place now. We have, the rent control that doesn't match inflation. So that's the government saying, look, we really don't care if this rental income covers your costs or not. Yes, your costs are increasing, but that's not, we're not going to care about that. Like we're going to give you just a nominal increase, but it's not going to match inflation. It's not going to cover the amount your costs are going up. And oh yeah, you want to move on from your tenanted property. We don't want you to be able to sell it either. And that's what this policy is saying. This is saying we want to make it more difficult for you to sell. Keep that tenant in there that's paying below market rent. And each year we're going to allow you to raise rents nowhere near enough to cover your expense. But then at the same time, we're going to launch a secondary suite program where we're going to give forgivable loans to those homeowners that want to create a secondary suite, rent it below market for the next 5 years. So we're going to dangle a carrot in front of you, act like we're trying to, encourage you, we're going to help you as a landlord. Yet from the other side of the mouth, every single policy is kicking the landlord, right? We have to see through what is happening here. I said it before, that secondary suite program, it's insane for anyone to think to jump onto that program. It's a life sentence of having a tenant in there below market. What's going to happen at the end of the 5 years? You're going to be able to boost that to market rent? There's zero chance of that. So, if this is a policy that is supporting tenants, just say it. Just say it. Say this is for the tenants. This is for renters. It's okay. Sometimes if you're going to have a polarizing policy like that, you need to just step forth and say this is what it is. This is who it is protecting. Don't throw in the guise of this is supporting landlords as well. It really isn't. Outside of that provincial government website that already exists, people can Google. Google is very supportive if we need to find out what the policies are for landlords. But again, this is another kick from that, the provincial government, another kick at the landlords, another kick at the investors. Federally, taxation in this country, I realize I'm swinging in a different direction here, but federally, you had the changes to the capital gains tax. You have talks that they're now looking at taxation on principal residences as well. So just at all levels of government, it just seems like they've allowed federally a spending problem to basically create this scenario where now they're looking at ways they can come to the homeowner and get more money out of them, come to the business owner, get more money out of them, come to the people that are creating jobs, get more money out of them, right? And then you have on the provincial side a similar story to come after the landlords, those that have worked hard to be able to put themselves in a position to be landlords in a province that is not forgiving or helpful at all towards landlords. And if you have an alternate viewpoint, I'd love to hear it in the comments, but also keep in mind, not everyone wants to purchase real estate out there. I come across so many people, each week that ownership is not for them, even if they could afford to do it, or they can afford to do it and they don't want to do it for whatever reason. So ownership is not for everyone. And, as a landlord, we take on significant risks in the process. Again, it's okay to want to protect the tenant. I think that's okay. But when I circle back to, creating this 4-month of notice, I don't see how in any way this protects against wrongful evictions. I can see how, needing to stay in the property for 12 months versus 6, that probably does. Because it's going to get, the small percentage of landlords that are thinking, okay, I just have to be in there for 6 months or put a family member in for 6 months. It changes their line of thought. Again, I think that's a very small number that's in the market. But when you change from 2 months notice, calendar months, which is often between 2 and 3 months, to 4, which is now basically going to be between 4 and 5 months, when you make that change, you're affecting so many groups of people. You're affecting the home sellers. You're affecting the landlords that want to put their property on the market for a first-time buyer to purchase. And I truly wonder whether they fully thought out this personal use eviction, extending that time to 4 months when the home is put up for sale. I truly think that they should have made some sort of exemption in that case because it supports people getting out of the rental pool and into purchasing properties. So this new portal that I'm talking about launches on July 18th. I'd love to hear your opinions on this. Leave that in the comments below. But another set of legislation changes, if you will, by this provincial government. We're going to see how it plays out, but those are my thoughts. That's what I have for you this week. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button. What that does is it takes the video and it sends it out to more people so they can learn from it as well. And if you enjoy this weekly real estate content, subscribe to this channel so you don't miss next week's video. And lastly, again, if you want to chat with me about your real estate situation one-on-one, send me a text, give me a call, shoot me an email, or book me on Calendly. Happy to chat with you, but I want to thank you for watching this week's video, and I look forward to seeing you next week.